Super Rescue. It was a busy time on the Fat Controller's railway. The engines were working hard. As soon as they had completed one job, there were two more that needed to be done. They were caked in soot and very irritable. To help ease the workload, the Fat Controller had brought Diesel back from the other railway. Diesel slunk into the sheds alongside Daisy. He surveyed the shed. Little had changed since the last time he had been there. Diesel decided to speak up. "It's time, Daisy, my dear, that we took this railway over." The engine scowled at Diesel. "Don't be ridiculous. It's their railway after all," said Daisy. "Not for much longer. On the other railway," Diesel said proudly, "the controller says that steam engines spoil our image." "Of course we do," yelled Duck. "We show what frauds you are. Call yourself an engine. If anything happens, you care nothing for your train. You just moan for a fitter. We'd bring it home, if only on one cylinder. Nothing ever happens to us. We are revolutionary." Vulgar noises came from the engines as they wheezed steam at the Diesel. Diesel growled. "Grrr, how rude." You asked for it," replied Daisy. "Now shut up." With nothing left to say, Diesel rolled to the back of the shed in rage. The next day, Henry rolled home tender first. "I'm a failed engine. Lost my regulator. Driver says it's been jammed wide open. However, I sold my reverser. But the other engines are sure to laugh at me now." Henry stopped by an old signal box. On the other line stood Diesel. "Oh, and worse still, now old Revolutionary's gonna laugh at me too." That's when the signalman spoke up. "For pity's sake, take this weasel away. He's failed. He's holding up Daisy, and all he does is moan for a fitter." Diesel was indignant. "Weasel? Oh, stow it, you," barked the signalman. "You cause enough trouble as it is." Diesel went silent. Henry couldn't help but chuckle. "I thought he'd be laughing at me. Now the joke's on him." Before long, Henry was attached in front of Diesel and began to pull the train out of the way. Diesel didn't help, of course. As soon as the line was clear, Daisy rolled on by the two engines. Diesel hoped that Daisy didn't notice him. She didn't, because she had troubles of her own. Unbeknownst to the rail car, she had taken on some bad fuel earlier that day. She kept trying to move, but before long, she grinded to a halt. "Oh, bother." Before long, the word had spread to the signal box. The signalman walked out. "Daisy's failed. Could you go give her a push?" Henry's driver and fireman were worried. "Moving two dead diesels and their trains? That's no joke for a failed engine." But Henry plucked up courage. "I'll give it a good try," he said with spirit. "Besides, Daisy's better than Diesel. She did try to shut him up." Further down the line, Daisy waited impatiently. Just then, Henry rolled up behind her, still pulling Diesel and his train. Hello, we're here to help." The engineers spoke with one another, and before long, everything was set. Wheel turn by wheel turn, Henry started to move. "Get moving, you," he said to the Diesels. Thomas and Duck were at the junction when they saw the strange cavalcade pull into the station. The two tank engines cheered as Daisy and Henry pulled up to the platform, with Diesel trailing long behind. Angry passengers erupted from Daisy's doors, demanding a refund, But as soon as the Fat Controller explained what had happened, they forgot to be cross and began to thank Henry. They began to crowd around Henry, took his pictures, and a thin clergyman even called him an enterprising engine. The passengers would have been later still if a guard hadn't tactfully shooed them into Annie and Clarabelle when he did. Once the passengers had departed, the Fat Controller scolded Diesel. Then he turned to Duck. "Duck, take Diesel back to the other railway. I'll write my report later." "With pleasure, sir," replied Duck. As Duck buffered up to Diesel, he could have sworn he heard a very familiar song coming from the trucks. Duck couldn't help but smile as he pulled Diesel and his train away. And Diesel? He most certainly was not.